Hello, thank you for joining me. I'm going to be trying to talk a little louder this time because I didn't hear my voice very well in the last video. We're going to be looking at cannolis. They go with my Italian collection. What I have of it now is some spaghetti, fettuccine alfredo, and then cannoli. So I have videos so far on the spaghetti and the fettuccine. Right now we'll do a video on the cannoli. And then hopefully soon I can get to my lasagna. I don't have an example of that right now. I've sold out on that. So what I wanted to do is show you how I make the cannoli filling first. The cannoli filling is just white primo. You go ahead and condition it. And then after conditioning it, I roll it into a kind of cone shape. And this is a frosting tip. It has a star shape at the end. Let's see if we could get this one says that it's a number 16. And I stick it into the tip. And then I have a blunt clay tool. And I start smashing it through. And when you start poking it through, it will eventually start coming through the tip. And the more conditioned your clay is, the easier it will be. When you get to the tip of it, you press it in more at the back, and you go in here. Now this is the harder way to do it, but I wanted to show you in case you don't have a clay extruder. So that is a frosting tip. The frosting tips will work on the walnut hollow clay extruder. I showed you this a while ago as well. Mine is pretty old, but it still works. And then I put the frosting tip here and the white clay inside. I wanted to show you the other way though, because if you have frosting chips and you don't have a clay extruder, you can force it through the frosting tip if it's conditioned just like I showed you. So there is the center of our cannoli. I figured I'd show you that first because we know how white loves to get everything on it, so I prefer to condition my white and take care of that first. Now the outside of the cannoli is primo ecru. So this is primo ecru, and I have this rolled out pretty thin. This is 1/2 millimeter. Then what I do for coloring, I have a little bit of cinnamon here. Oops, that's an awful lot, but that's okay. I just take one side and I rub it in. This is for texture and color. More for the color than the texture in this particular case. Now, so I don't get my workspace too dirty, I am going to clean off this cinnamon, and then we'll continue. Okay, so I've cleared off the cinnamon. Now what I do is I take a round cutter. This is 3/4 of an inch. And there's my circle. For here, we add more texture. Now I keep a toothbrush, an old toothbrush just for clay. I actually have 2. But I find that I texture the ecru a lot with it. So I leave one just for this color so I don't mess up all of my other pieces. But I go around in a circle, help thin out that edge of the cannoli. Texture, texture, texture. Then I lift the edge a bit and flip it over. So there is our cannoli. From here, I will take a toothpick and dip it in a tiny bit of TLS, and I'll just put a little bit of TLS just in the center. That's just to help keep our cannoli filling in. Then I take our cannoli filling and I twist. I like to give it a nice good twist. I stick it on the center. Oops. And I cut it with my fingernails. Cut it down there. And you could smooth it down with your fingers. So here we go. Here's the cannoli. Smooth down the edges. I will take a little bit more TLS and put it right on the top of the center of the cannoli. So that way the clay helps stick. And I roll the cannoli just like this. I push down a little bit, push in, get the cannoli shape that I want. And this is bigger than 12th scale. This is for my charm jewelry. If the edges of your cannoli is just way too flat, you can repinch and shape again. So now we have a cannoli. There we go. And there's two ways you can decorate this as far as what I showed you before. The first way is with sprinkles and chocolate. If you want sprinkles, what I use for that is glass micro beads. The glass micro beads that I'm putting just a little bit of TLS here. The glass micro beads that I use are actually Martha Stewart brand. It's just a dark chocolate brown micro bead. I don't glob the TLS on. I just add a little bit, and then I try to sprinkle on a few sprinkles, and you can adjust where they land with your pin later. So once I have a few on, I usually take a clean safety pin, not the same toothpick I was using, but I'll often take a clean safety pin and I will start moving them around so I don't have too many right on top of each other. For some reason there's 3 sticking to each other there. But I'll just kind of position where I want them. And for the chocolate drizzle, this chocolate drizzle is the TLS and Primo Burnt Umber. I take a few little pinches of Primo Burnt Umber and I throw it in the TLS, and then I mix it until it's nice and stringy. If it doesn't ever get stringy, add more of the clay in, and it will eventually get stringy. Here's an example where it hangs and drips off. From here, I would put it inside your baking pan and just add some drizzle. So there is cannoli number 1. Once it's baked, the burnt umber turns darker and you have a cannoli that looks more like this. Hold on one moment. I'm just moving this little cannoli out of the way. Now the second way to do it is, let me grab that's a smaller one. There it is. It fell off the table. Now the second way is with the powdered sugar on top. Sorry, I should have prepared 2 before starting so I don't keep you all waiting so long. This is already 10 minutes and it's not a very difficult tutorial. So I'm going to twist, twist, twist. Remember your TLS. I'm not throwing the TLS on the bottom since I already showed you that. I will throw it on the top just for it to get snug so I can show you the powdered sugar. So I'll put a little TLS right there, and then we'll wrap the cannoli around, and then after you shape it, go back and trim your edges to where you want them. Okay, so from here, once you have your little cannoli, what you would do is take your fingertip, you put a little bit of TLS on your fingertip, you make it tacky because you don't want globs of glue, and you put it on the top wherever you would want your powdered sugar. From here, what you would do, you could take some white pastels. Me, I take something called marble glitter, marble Carrera marble. It's in the Martha Stewart line, and I sprinkle it on the cannoli. And then that becomes the cannoli with the powdered sugar. But I did want to show you something because sometimes there's cherries on cannolis, and I didn't know if you would want to see that or not. If you do want that, I take some red clay, I condition the red clay, form a little ball, and cook it. Once it's hardened, I would try to cut it in half. And once you have it in half, I would try to place it where you want it on the frosting. Let's see if I could pick it up with my sticky TLS. So I would place it right where I want it on my cannoli filling, and then I would push down into it a bit so it doesn't come out. So here we go. That last time I didn't get it quite in half. So here's another. And sometimes I will pick something up with a little bit of TLS if I'm having a trouble getting it with my fingers. And then you will push it into the filling where you want it. And then from there you would just clean off the TLS, and it does bake clear. So there we go. We have our little cannoli with the half cherries on them. So we'll look at these little guys one more time. So here we have spaghetti, fettuccine alfredo, and cannolis. So those are the video tutorials we have on the Italian food so far. I'll try to get to some lasagna soon. That one is a lot more complicated, and I make my noodles a very special way that took quite a while of thinking. So thank you for joining me. I'll talk to you soon.